Call the meeting to order. Welcome to today's Planning Commission meeting. Cooper, you want to start with a call to order and roll call?
Sure. Chair Rich Spiker.
Here.
Vice Chair Colin Russ.
Here.
Commissioner Carl Anderson. Commissioner Jason Wazorek.
Here.
And Commissioner Douglas Bizzarni.
Here.
Director Jacqueline Spry is here. And Assistant Planner and Secretary Cooper Moore.
Okay. First order of business is approval of the minutes from the meeting of Tuesday, November 18th. So we have a motion for approval?
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Move on to, is there any public comment or correspondence?
We have not received any public comments or correspondence.
Okay. Thank you. Item 3, Saldo website, old business.
Yes, this is just an update to say that the new Saldo page on our website is probably 98% completed. I think we have a couple of tweaks, but we've uploaded all of the information about the amendments as well as the original ordinance. We've made flowcharts and diagrams, and we have some frequently asked questions, and we're hoping that that will be a resource to provide clarity both on the city side and the developer side. And we encourage you to look at that at your own convenience.
All right. Thank you very much. Item 5, new business, subdivision and land development. First item is Bayview Heights preliminary land development.
Yes, I believe, Steve, if you're going to do a presentation.
Cooper, can you hear me? This is Steve.
Yes.
Do you guys have a drawing on the screen, or would you like me to share a drawing, or how?
I do. I will share. Would you like just the kind of one page?
The land development plan's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, can you see that?
I can see that. So in front of you guys today is the land development plan for the Bayview Heights development. It's very similar to the project that you've seen go through the waterfront conditional process. We've now further detailed out, as you can see there in kind of the center of the screen, the stormwater management system that's beneath the parking. There's some conveyance connected to the various units. And it's an infiltration type system, and it reconnects back into the city's MS4 storm system along 3rd Street. There's various units throughout the townhouses, the multifamily, the duplexes, the fourplexes. All that really hasn't changed from the original information that you were provided in the early on process. The only things now that have been added really are the storm, the sanitary, and the water connections. So if there's any other questions you guys may have with regards to the development, I'm happy to answer those. We've met the zoning requirements for parking. We have some trees and screening provided. A set of engineering plans have been submitted to city engineering for review and comment, and we have not received any comments back yet. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you guys may have.
So Cooper, is our action today to approve?
Yes, this would be approval for the preliminary plan, and then they would submit the final plan for a future meeting. But I can also say that the city's reviews have been completed and were satisfactory. Any comments for changes between the preliminary and the final will be provided by city staff.
I recall one of the questions posed by the Design Review Committee, Dan Dahlkemper, was about using native plants for trees and such. Can you address that at all, Steve?
Brian, are you available to, we have a landscape architect on the project as well. I believe I saw his name pop up here. He would probably be better to speak to the landscaping part of it, but the intent would be to use native species.
Yes, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you, Brian.
Great. Yeah, we actually submitted a native landscaping palette a little while ago. I thought that was part of the submission. I think we provided that along with the lighting requirements as well. But yes, the intention here is to use native planting and native, what I would call native adjacent planting. So these would be plantings that are native or native adjacent, meaning that they do well in the urban conditions and are non-invasive and are pretty commonly found and used throughout Pennsylvania. So native where we can use them, and then if we find that there's specific needs for plants that are more, need to be more tolerant to salt conditions and urban conditions, then we would use plants that we consider native adjacent, all of them approved on the approved list for the city and Pennsylvania.
All right, thank you. Any other questions at this point?
If not, I'll issue a motion to approve the preliminary plan.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Cooper, please note, because Weber Murphy Fox is employed by the developer, that I am abstaining.
Noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cooper, please note I was not an affirmative on that.
All right, next item. Item B, Housing Authority of the City of Erie preliminary land development.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Someone-
So I can speak on like the land development, the parking layout and stuff like that. It's a plan for the Housing Authority of the City of Erie to build a 3-story office building. See here's the parking layout, the access for handicap and the sidewalk along the north side, and then an underground storm system with irrigation that discharges back out into the Parade Street and down to the existing catch basin near the corner of 10th and Parade. I guess if you guys have any questions about that part of it, I'm happy to answer that. And then Christie's here as well, kind of if you have any questions on the building, layouts or any questions about that.
Could we get, I guess, just maybe I missed it, but a little background. Obviously it's new offices, but what are they going to be used for? What is it replacing or updating? Kind of just some background on the project.
Sure. So all of the Erie Housing Authority administration offices would move to this building. They're currently located at 606 Holland Street. They're Section 8 and HUD-related offices are also moving to this building. There would be some storage areas in it. They'll use it for a training. If they have trainings for the HUD activities, different things, but it's all staff-related type training. The public would need to be able to come in there to apply for HUD housing, the Section 8 housing, that kind of thing.
So it's just consolidation of existing facilities. Fantastic.
What happens to the existing space?
At 606 Holland?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their plan is to do with that at the moment. I can find out and let you know.
But all kind of operations and functions there would move to this new
Yes.
facility.
Okay.
Now, that building also has multiple apartments. It's a 6 or 8 story building down there.
Yeah,
Their apartments and things would stay there.
sure, understand. Okay. Other questions anybody might have at this point? You passed the preliminary review, okay?
Yes, the city completed their preliminary review, and it all checked out. And again, any comments would be provided by city staff between preliminary and final.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion approved.
A second?
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There being none, the motion is carried. Thank you. No rezonings this month. No conditional waterfront uses, no blighted property designations on our. So we go to E, historic nomination regarding Erie Cemetery.
Commissioners. Matthew Falcone, I'm the city's historic preservation planner. The city received a nomination for Erie Cemetery a little while ago. I know it's been quite a bit since we've done a historic nomination and had that go through Planning Commission, so if you'll bear with me. Next slide. So this slide and the next gives you a sense of where Erie Cemetery lies within the city of Erie. Next slide. It's within Little Italy's neighborhood. Next slide. This is a site plan of the cemetery itself. Each one of those numbers correspond to photographic documentation that went into the nomination. Next slide. So to review, this is where we are at in the process. So the nomination was received by the Historic Review Commission, and on 12/1, they determined that there was reasonable cause for the nomination to move forward. They also considered the nomination itself and made a positive recommendation to City Council. So that takes us to today, where the nomination is before you, where you're able to give it consideration regarding the city's plans and how it fits into those plans, and then also make a recommendation to Council. Next slide. So the findings from the Historic Review Commission was that they provided a positive recommendation to Council that Erie Cemetery be listed on the City of Erie's Register of Historic Places as it conveys historic significance through criteria B, C, and F, and maintains significant historic integrity to convey its significance. Those criteria map back to that it is affiliated with the life of Emma Hay, who was a superintendent of the cemetery and actually one of the first women to be a superintendent of a large American cemetery. It also reflects criteria C, which is overall design, that the cemetery itself is an example of the rural cemetery movement. And then finally, criteria F is that it is a well-established visual feature within the neighborhood and with the City of Erie. Next slide. That takes us to Planning Commission. So as a reminder, in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the Planning Commission shall consider whether the designation is consistent with the municipality's comprehensive plan, other development plans and policies only, and transmit a report detailing its recommendations to City Council. So that takes us then to the next slide, our comprehensive plan. So within the city's comprehensive plan, Erie Refocused, I know it's a bit difficult to see, but the cemetery is actually already identified as a historic resource. It's the large blue square that's circled in red. Within the plan itself, it calls for identifying historic resources in neighborhoods and having them be anchors of the community. So in effect, the Erie Cemetery is already identified as a historic resource. This process gives it official recognition. Next slide. So we're moving now from, actually, no, I'm sorry, we're still in Erie Refocused. In Erie Refocused, the section that specifies Little Italy, especially this part of Little Italy, you can see again that circled on the right-hand side, the cemetery is identified as a historic asset. The plan itself heavily focuses on the surrounding community and reinvestment. There's not a whole lot of continuity between the process that we're going through now and this plan. Next. Looking at the neighborhood plan, which is put together by the Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network, you can see here too, excuse me, that the Erie Cemetery has been identified as a major neighborhood resource, not only for its historic asset, or as a historic asset, but because it is also a tremendous green space for the neighborhood and used akin to a city park. Next slide. Again, kind of sifting through their plan, we can see that one of their goals is to establish neighborhood corridors, and here connecting the neighborhood to the park and making sure that there's walkability and accessibility is important to the neighborhood. Next slide. And then finally, in our own historic preservation plan, next slide, there are two specific initiatives that tie directly to this nomination. One is designating new local landmarks and creating historic district overlays. The other is helping list things to the National Register. I'm very happy to say that the Erie Cemetery Association has been excellent partners in this process. And in addition to pursuing this designation with the city, they're also pursuing a designation on the National Register of Historic Places. Next slide. There's a section in our preservation plan that talks about telling Erie's diverse stories. The criteria by which that this is coming to you is in part a manifestation of that we're able to elevate Emma Hayes' story and identify her as someone who made significant contributions both within the city and then also to the country, are pretty substantial narratives. Next slide. So it is my recommendation that Erie Cemetery be listed on the City of Erie's Register of Historic Places because it is consistent both with our comprehensive plan, with the Sisters of St. Joseph's Neighborhood Network plan, and our historic preservation plan. The next slide. Before you is a suggested motion. Should you like to advance this application? I do know that we have a representative here from the Erie Cemetery Association that may also want to speak on the cemetery's behalf. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have before I yield the floor.
My only question would be, how does designation affect the cemetery's ongoing operations and use?
It doesn't have any impact on use. Historic designation is simply a zoning overlay that looks at the aesthetics. And so in this case, they would be treated like any other historic designation, that anything that's visible from a public right-of-way would be reviewed. The cemetery itself is still an active cemetery. There are still people being buried in it. Because that change is consistent with the visual nature of the cemetery itself, reviews are done over the counter, and with cemeteries, it works a bit differently than it does with individual houses or landmarks, by which we are able to work with them to create basically a blanket COA where they're able to continue with ongoing use. Things that would rise to the level of more particular review is that if anything were done to the exterior of the buildings that are on, I believe, Chestnut and 18th, those would look a little bit more like a traditional review by the HRC.
So it would restrict, let me make sure I'm phrasing this as a question. Would it restrict what owners of properties adjacent to the cemetery can do with their properties in terms of renovations?
It only has an impact on the cemetery
Okay,
itself.
that's what I thought. I want to make sure.
There are I think a few empty lots there still. If somebody were to want to build a new, correct term, mausoleum, or it would have to adhere to some historic aesthetic to match and coincide with what we're honoring now.
With that, it wouldn't, because we're not designating this for aesthetic qualities. It relates back to the site as a whole. So if someone wanted to build a new mausoleum, they're able to do so. It doesn't need to look historic. It doesn't need to have kind of an artificial sense of that it's always been there. That it is a manifestation of the use and incorporated into the overall design of the cemetery is enough.
I think we'd want there's only a few lots, right? But we'd want it to be in sync and not be in a modern,
Art Deco or some cute ultra
get something pink in there, right?
style.
There's actually, when it comes to mausoleums within the cemetery, there's a lot of difference in architectural design. They have there is an Art Deco. Actually, there are several.
I love Art Deco, so I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying
Yeah,
something that sticks out is maybe different.
They also have an Art Nouveau mausoleum. So the design styles it's really a spectrum within the cemetery.
They're of their time.
Indeed.
There's one out there waiting, right?
Yeah.
For somebody.
One of the interesting kind of threads that came out of the research for the cemetery was that it relates back to the city of Erie's planning history. So the cemetery itself was created 1850, and it was a product of public health concerns, that the graveyards that existed within the city had basically become full, and that there was a conscious effort over the course of decades to exhume bodies and then move them into Erie Cemetery. What was particularly interesting is that in recent history, we have uncovered bodies that did not make that transition. And so it's a fascinating, if not sensitive piece, I think, of Erie's history, and something to keep in mind as we're looking at new development and excavation work within the downtown core, that there's often a lot more underfoot than we recognize.
Can you speak at all to, I guess, more generally in terms of cemeteries receiving a historic designation like we're asking for? I mean, I in full, candor, I not what I was expecting, kind of in terms of getting, historic designations. I think more generally we think of buildings. I mean, obviously it makes sense, the context you provided, but can you maybe speak more broadly to, is this, a fairly common practice, or, what that looks like elsewhere?
Yes, very much so. I can say that in Pittsburgh, within the past several years, there was multiple cemeteries that formed a complex of about 18 acres that received a designation. That was more for cultural heritage because they were all Jewish burial grounds. I know that in Johnstown, within the past 3 years, their cemetery was designated in part because of the history that's related to the Johnstown flood and the people who were buried there. And I know that within the Commonwealth, every 3 months or so, PHMC, the Historic Commission, has considered different burial sites related to African American history. So it's pretty common. This is, of course, the first in Erie. And for us, it's not an unusual way to look at historic preservation. It really ties back into places that are important to people and why. And with this instance, with the cemetery, there's multiple threads of why this place is important. And I would think that over the next several years or so, you're going to see a lot of things that aren't, I think, what people think of when they think of historic preservation, of, this is a pretty Victorian house, we're going to designate it, it looks like a snow globe. No, it's really a much broader field, and it ties back specifically to whatever resource exists. So in this case, the cemetery meets many different criteria for us, and we're happy to support them in their endeavor.
Will this designation support the mission of the cemetery by enabling it to pursue state or federal funds, grants? that kind of thing?
Indeed. Part of the mission of the cemetery actually involves preservation work.
Right.
And we are very fortunate in that Erie Cemetery has, within the past several years, taken a very active role in forming public programming. And through their offerings, you're able to dine amongst the departed, to go on different cemetery tours, to learn about different Erieites, as well as different parts of the cemetery. So they're very much looking at it as a cultural resource. And this designation and this process very much helps uplift, I think, that narrative and initiative for the cemetery. To your point, though, yes, the pursuit of this designation and also listing on the National Register will help them access funding to keep up and do restoration work, especially on buildings, mausoleums that are inherent in the site.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does the geography of this designation include that separate off of 26th? I don't know how to refer to it, but there's like another historic part of the cemetery that's like a half a block over on 26th. That doesn't include that?
The Jewish cemetery?
Yeah, there's a Jewish cemetery there.
Yeah.
Totally separate entity,
okay.
not included.
Of the
in
same
this
era,
process.
but not unrelated. Okay.
Exactly that.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm certainly willing to recommend a motion as included in the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners. I yield the floor, and we'll remind you that there's also a representative here
Sure.
on behalf of the cemetery, if you'd like to
Like to come
invite
up
them
and
up.
say a few words before we?
Good afternoon. My name is Becky Weiser, and I work with the Erie Cemetery Association. And people have been dying to get into Erie Cemetery for 175 years now.
My kids hate when I make that joke.
The main reason we're pursuing any kind of historic designation with the city, state, and potentially federal, is that we want to engage the community in different ways in Erie Cemetery. We don't have a lot of room left to bury. We have some. Quite often, we try to refer people to Laurel Hill or Wintergreen Gorge, which are also part of our association, but we do have some space left. So we need to come up with other ways to bring the community in to enjoy the space, to learn about who we are as Erieites. So we've expanded, as Matthew explained, all of the programming that we have. We also have a new Facebook series called Mausoleum Mondays. So each week we feature a different mausoleum and the people who are inside, what they did, why. We don't know why they built the building that they are interred in now versus going into the ground, but just to bring to life these stories that we've never heard as residents of the city. As Matthew also explained, we have older burials in our cemetery than the cemetery itself due to disinterring these old church graveyards and moving the bodies. Mainly the Protestant ones came to Erie Cemetery and the Catholic ones went to Trinity. And Trinity is a few years newer than we are. So we take a lot of pride in our residents of the cemetery. We have people like Strong Vincent, Harry Burley, the Reed family who started Erie. So we take a lot of pride in our space. It's very expensive to run a cemetery, as you can imagine. We try to maintain a beautiful space, and I believe we do. But we do have buildings that need care. They are old. The office building that I'm in was built in 1897. It's gorgeous. Does it need help? Sure. And we don't have as many burials in Erie to help support. The mausoleum series that I just mentioned on Facebook, when I did photographs of all of the mausoleums and you go and you see, wow, they need repointing. Well, the mausoleum belongs to the family, but if the family's long gone, it now belongs to the cemetery in a sense. So we are the people to maintain this in perpetuity, this space. We are developing what used to be our tulip gardens. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but Erie Cemetery had for many years a sunken garden. We still have the sunken garden. It's near the pergola, but it was thousands upon thousands of tulips. Well, we can't do that anymore, the thousands upon thousands. We have planted 500 for the spring, so drive by to see those. But we are repurposing that space into more of an event space to have the community in, not just those in Little Italy, but of course, the whole of Erie. So we are reimagining the space in a respectful way, and we appreciate the city's support for that. Any questions for me?
I have none.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to make the motion as proposed.
I'll second.
No, you got it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Best of luck. I think of a few others that could probably do with designation too. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 6, Department of Planning and Neighborhood Resources updates.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Just a few housekeeping items I just wanted to keep on the radar before I get to my report. One is that at the first of the year, you would take elections again, so that would go onto agenda. Any training that you would like to see in 2026, we'd be happy to, as we did, I think it was this year or last, this year. I'd be happy to coordinate with Cooper again, a refresher or a training session, or potentially whatever you may be interested in. Some of the things that are in my report maybe will get your wheels turning in terms of what kind of training possibly might be available. Also, the annual report, I know that Cooper prepared and submitted that to you this year, just to keep that on the radar and possibly have that completed and approved a little bit sooner than I think in the years past. So also reappointments or new appointments if needed. I do believe that there's one, right, Commissioner, that your appointment is coming to an end. So just to keep that in the works. So any questions on that?
Have you had any interaction with the incoming administration about appointments?
Well, we've had interaction with the incoming administration, and we haven't necessarily had a discussion around appointments. At least for Planning Commission. I think in some of our other boards and councils we have. But we're going to have to, because we only have one more council meeting, which is tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So any appointment that will go through for next year will have to be in January. Mm-hmm. So it will be a discussion, correct?
Yes, I have made the incoming administration aware that we will have one vacancy.
So.
Okay. We've only just recently achieved a full commission.
Yes, I know.
It would be nice to stay that way.
Sure.
Makes it much easier to function.
Yeah. Okay. I did want to inform you that we did not receive the state MAP grant. Yes, it's a little, I took it hard, but the only entity that received a state MAP grant in our region was Erie County for their Erie County Housing Plan. I did speak with the state in regards to why we did not receive this, because I felt that we had a strong application. It was recommended to us by the state, so it was really disheartening. But some of the reasoning behind it, there were multiple reasons. That there was an influx of applications that came in. We're seeing that in all areas just due to the climate right now with grant funding. Also, I think there was some discussion, at least at the review level, that the City of Erie's comp plan, and I say in quotations, comp plan, is going to be 10 years old next year. And Lancaster received funding for the same request, a zoning and Saldo update, and they received that funding, and it was to build off their 2023 comprehensive plan. So traditionally, it was told to me, obviously, traditionally, the comp plan comes first, and that then informs your zoning and your subdivision and land development. So I think we were maybe a little bit misled in some ways because we went after the zoning and Saldo quickly. That being said, it's not going to stop us. The next round the deadline is April 1st. So in between now and springtime, the plan is to come up with some kind of communication strategy with the incoming administration, with state, with the governor's office, and also with the planning department to make sure that we're all on the same page and that the support will be there for us come April, hopefully. So as we transition into this new administration, we will make sure that that becomes a priority as to how we inform them of the importance of a comprehensive plan, whatever that looks like. Now they're called implementation plans, but it's a citywide approach and visioning of comprehensive. So I've already had discussions about this with our transition team, with the mayor-elect, and we will continue that as we move into January and February so that we position ourselves well.
So we're looking for an update?
It's not going to be an update, most likely.
Whole new one?
It would be a new plan. Our Erie Refocus plan, while it was very well written and well received at its time, it's really more of a blight remediation plan and housing plan. And so it needs to encompass much more than just that focus.
We need an official map.
Absolutely.
There's probably a laundry list of
Right.
other things that.
Right, so I would not call it an update to Erie Refocus. I mean, we'll see what happens with that, but I would hope that whatever is in Erie Refocus that has not been accomplished will be also put into if appropriate, into the comprehensive plan.
One of my takeaways from our training that you put us through is that we can be the instigating party of that, right?
I'm sorry?
The Planning Commission is supposed to be an instigating arm of this, right? So can we start pushing now, or we can actually have a vote right on it now to request that the city start looking into to support that effort, right?
Yeah, I think I would encourage you as the Planning Commission to be speaking also to our elected officials. Any support around that? I don't think it would hurt to have an official vote, although maybe it would be best if we wait until we are into the new administration. But as we're consulting with Michael Baker and we're having discussions, obviously, with the state, it seems as if this is the proper path forward. And potentially, we could go out for funding simultaneously to do the saldo update and the zoning update. But yeah, so there's also some things that we've discussed in terms of internal, maybe internal sort of, how do I explain this? Having the department focus in the next couple of months on priorities and need assessment of the city. A lot of that we already know because we're out in the field. We've done multiple plans over the last couple of years. So we are in tune with what the needs of the community are. There's still work to be had, but if the department and the engagement team worked through that piece of it, perhaps we would have a shorter project on our hands, and we'd be able to accomplish the comprehensive plan in a 1-year time limit versus a 2-year time limit. And the RFP might look a little bit different because the engagement piece would be completed already. So we're talking through some of those options, just because it's logical to go that route.
I mean, I don't think there's any harm in taking kind of an all-the-above approach in terms of us pushing on it. You guys, obviously, the planning department is clearly, I think the approach you just outlined makes sense, taking everything you've learned and building on it. But I'm kind of the opinion that the more we can throw at it, the better the odds of getting those grants awarded and, more importantly, making progress on those things that we know need to be addressed. But that's just me.
Is it appropriate to do it as a motion of the commission, or?
I think we can instigate it now, right? We want to put it on the new administration on day one that this is hypercritical. Whatever the process ends up being, we need a process.
I mean, if there's only the one council meeting left,
Yeah.
so, this isn't going to go on that. This, would be something that kind of
Yeah.
fits in first thing in the new year.
But is it more appropriate to recommend to the incoming, make it a recommendation to the incoming administration? As opposed to?
Yeah. Man, we could all talk about it all day. I think
Right.
how out of date it is and
Yeah.
how it's half of what we needed.
Perhaps you collectively write a letter to the incoming administration, and then we could also do a resolution. We could put a resolution in January or February stating that the Planning Commission would like to move forward with whatever that may sound like, move forward with comprehensive planning research, or, discussing the comprehensive plan, or
Yeah.
we could do something like that.
I'm up for anything right now.
Yeah.
Just to get it going. We can be on record.
I got nothing to lose. I'm out of here.
I'm comfortable writing a letter.
Yeah,
If you're,
sign with you, yeah.
okay. I'll do something and circulate it for agreement or signatures?
How do we do that?
With the
outside of
letter?
this? Yeah. How do we coordinate?
Typically, what we've done in the past is we've had Commissioner Spiker send the letter on behalf of the Planning Commission, and then he signs it as chair. Or you could all sign it if you wish to.
We're not allowed to coordinate on it outside of this meeting though, right?
Yeah, are there any issues with this?
No,
sunshine?
but you're just having the discussion here at Planning Commission.
Right.
And then you would write the
Yeah.
letter on behalf of the Planning Commission.
I think that what we want to accomplish is, I think, to see the city's comp plan become an important part of moving the city forward, in addition to the saldo subdivision and zoning updates.
Sure.
It is, it's 10 years since I first sat in a meeting with Buki, where the idea of the comp plan in process happened. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And we had, the planning commission at that time had no role in pushing for the development of a comp plan at all. I don't think at that time anybody knew what the hell it was. And it was the first time, in my understanding, that a comp plan had been developed for the city.
I'd like to go back to your kind of retracting the engagement part, and I think it's important that we have a hyper-engaged exercise again. I think that when Buki was here and we were having, they're referred to as adult conversations,
Yeah.
I think it's important that we have those conversations again. We're in a different place than we were 10 years ago.
I wasn't necessarily saying that we wouldn't have those engagement sessions or those conversations, but that we could do more of that up front before we moved into with the consultant.
Yeah.
Because we have the ability, we have the connections, we have an engagement team, we have neighborhood resources,
Yeah.
and we're out in the community. I mean, our engagement team is out weekly at neighborhood watch meetings, neighborhood groups. So the pulse of the community is very much.
Yeah, the catchment of there, I think, is limited though versus when Buki was here, and whatever was happening then, I've sat through some of those too, and they were very excited groups of people
Right.
that I don't think are as involved in the
Yeah.
neighborhood plans as much. I think when you're thinking citywide, there's a lot more people that get more excited to be involved in that discussion. But I understand the idea of wanting to get done as quick as possible, but I think we should the pace that we did last time, it worked, it made sense, and people were using Erie Refocus for the first few years, and unfortunately it seems to be abandoned until today. It was the first time, I think, in a long time we've seen anybody invoke it. But it's our plan, we should be using it, and there's a lot of projects around town that have ignored it, and then it's also been weaponized for some of those projects to support them.
We do use Erie Refocus sometimes on a daily basis, and in all of the plans that we've produced over the last couple of years, they've always vetted through that as the comprehensive plan that the city has. So the recommendations and implementation that is part of that document finds itself in our safety action plan, in other plans that in the parks plan, they vetted through it. I know it's not being used in the same way, but even the character error analysis, they vetted through the plan in order to come up with the development trends.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure certain you use it all the time internally, but as far as its outward facing use, I think that's non-existent. I would offer that the last mayoral campaign, I don't think I heard any of the candidates mention it, but previous campaigns, it was touted by both parties as something to adhere to. And I think at every political cycle, we should be acknowledging its benefits and gaps, and whatever version the outcome is in the future, I hope that it doesn't become as quickly forgotten as the previous one seemed to have been, again, outwardly facing.
Well,
certainly.
at 10 years, it's long in the tooth. I mean,
It's a very different world.
very different world, very different reality now
Oh, yeah.
than then.
Put a pandemic in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a plan ought to be done every 5 years, and at most,
Yeah.
3 years, it's already gotten old.
Our demographics have changed.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I think that we've learned a great deal about having and using plans effectively, and we need plans that are
Actionable.
actionable, right? I mean, more than even the comprehensive plan was. It was more like grabbing the city by the shoulders and saying, wake up, there's things you need to realize and address about what's happening to your community. And so it's time to build on that and move forward.
Agree.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Anything else?
Yes, a few other things. We plan to hold a SALDO, the amendments to the SALDO, we plan to hold a session, an info session either January 21st, 22nd, or 23rd at noon. That session will be mostly invite only. It will be for architects, developers, and land surveyors and critical city staff. Planning Commission will be invited, of course, to attend. And we'll have Troy Truax from Michael Baker also there to support the presentation, answer any questions. Cooper and I will most likely support Troy. And then we'll go through the amendments, we'll go through the changes, we'll look at the website, the workflows, the checklists. We have a lot of projects continuing to come in. Even this morning, we had another discussion with a developer, a local developer, and so even though the submittal, the information that we're requiring for the submittal hasn't changed on paper, but the process has changed, and the amount of times that the developer is coming in front of the Planning Commission has changed. So it's going to be a learning process, and I think this hopefully will help. We're also working with Adam Trott to try to get AIA continuing education credits for those that are interested. So stay tuned, and we'll be sending something out the first week of January to let you know all about that. I think it will be helpful for you as well to sit through that process again. I know I had one more thing. Talked about the comprehensive plan. I think that's it in terms of information. I mean, we have an ongoing parks plan, obviously, that we're still working through. We've been working with the consultant really on analysis and mapping, a lot of mapping in terms of conservation land, bird observatories, stream banks, daylit streams versus underground streams. We've been working also with the consultants on continuing to engage stakeholders. We did have a round of stakeholder meetings about a month ago, and we had a bit of low attendance. And so now we're again going back out and reaching out, many of us on the team, to try to have either one-on-one discussions or to have discussions in a small group. Tomorrow, we're meeting at Sisters of St. Joseph with a youth with the youth. We've had a lot of contact with younger children, and we've kind of missed a little bit of the teenage years, if you will. And so tomorrow we have a group that we're meeting with at Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network, and we hope to get a lot of good information out from there. So that's continuing on. I also wanted to mention that we did use the Safety Action Plan multiple times over the course of the last couple of months. One of the things that we did use the Safety Action Plan for was for PennDOT funding called HSIP. I just checked in with them, and they're going to be announcing funding in January, February. One of the projects that we put in for was improvements to cherry to walnut, sassafras, yes. Sidewalk improvements, barriers to the street, because we know that's heavily trafficked by prep, students going up to the event center, also people moving into downtown. So we've focused in on that area a little bit more. And then there's other funding for vulnerable road users. So we absolutely opened that plan up. We looked at the implementation, the prioritization matrix, and built out our recommendations to PennDOT from there. So it's not sitting idle. I just wanted to make sure you know that. That's it. I just also wanted to thank you for your service. Thank you for being part of this board and for supporting the planning department. There's been a lot of changes over the last 2 years, and I know that we both are grateful for your support, and I hope to continue to work like this in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Before you go, could you speak to last week's housing
Sure.
committee plan meeting?
Sure. So last week, you may be aware that the City of Erie is working with M&L Consultant on a citywide comprehensive housing strategy. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, there's been engagement sessions, both internally and also with neighborhood groups. And Commissioner Spiker was at the internal session that we had. At this moment, as far as I understand, the consultants are gathering data, they're gathering information and doing an analysis based on what they're at least receiving from the city and also in reports and then from these stakeholder sessions. My perception, assumption, I should say, is that as we transition into the new administration, things may change a bit with this housing strategy and the way that we move forward. There's a lot more engagement that needs to be done. And so there may be a bit of a pause and then a reinvigoration of it. So I think there's a lot of work to be done still there. And I'm hoping that they'll just slow down a little bit. So
Can you, and thank you for that, I guess off of piggybacking on that, as I recall, Infinite Erie had done quite a bit of research and study on it and had come up with some estimates for housing requirements within the city or perhaps the region. Was that part of these discussions? Because it seems like that's a lot of valuable information that perhaps would lend itself to this discussion, or?
are you talking about the housing data in terms of condition reports, or are you talking about stuff that Infinite
Inventory
Erie?
requirements, what type of housing needs?
Housing needs, yeah.
Some information they had released it there
Yeah,
not so long ago.
they've been, that's part of their analysis. I think they're looking at all of the data that, the missing middle, Yes, I'm assuming that is part of their analysis when looking at that. I know that they've been getting a lot of information from the Realty MLS.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah. So, yes. I don't have anything concrete to share with you because we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen any kind of draft analysis or existing conditions report or anything like that to be able to share at this time. The county is also doing an Erie County housing plan, and I am sitting on that steering committee. So I'm happy to report back to you information from that plan as well, where Erie obviously is included in it, but is included as just another municipality, not necessarily a focus on Erie, City of Erie.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
No further business. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay.
Make a motion.
Okay, I made a motion and been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.